welcome to my channel. I hope you enjoy this tale. Let's start. The alarm went off, startling me awake. Another day, another dollar. I turned over, expecting to find Andrea's comforting presence next to me, but her side of the bed was vacant once more. "Andrea," I called out, my voice still heavy with sleep. No response. I hauled myself out of bed, my feet touching the icy hardwood floor. The house was silent except for the faint buzz of the air conditioner. I headed to the kitchen, hoping to find a note or any clue of where she might have gone. Nothing. My phone vibrated, a text from Andrea at the gym. "Be back later." I exhaled, pouring myself some coffee. It was turning into a routine, Andrea vanishing early morning and returning late at night, always with a reason, always with that aloof look in her eyes. As I drank my coffee, I couldn't dismiss the sense that something was wrong, but I suppressed it, focusing instead on the day ahead. I had an important presentation at work, and I couldn't afford distractions. Hours later, I was at my desk reviewing the last parts of my presentation when my colleague Haley knocked on my office door. "Hey Tim, are you ready for the big show?" she inquired, leaning on the doorframe. I nodded, mustering a smile. "As ready as I'll ever be." "You know how these go." Haley tilted her head, observing me. "Everything okay?" "You look a bit off." I hesitated, then shook my head. "It's nothing, just some home issues." "Trouble in paradise?" Haley asked gently. I shrugged, not wanting to delve into it. "It's probably nothing. Andrea's just been distant, maybe stressed about something." Haley's expression clouded for a moment, but she quickly replaced it with a smile. "I'm sure it's nothing. Hey, good luck with your presentation. You'll do great." As she left, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something she wasn't saying, but I had no time to ponder. The presentation was in 10 minutes and I needed to concentrate. The rest of the day passed in a whirlwind of meetings and paperwork. When I finally arrived home well after 8, I was surprised to see Andrea's car in the driveway. Inside, I found her chopping vegetables with more force than necessary. "Hey," I said, setting my briefcase on the counter. "You're home early." Andrea startled, the knife clanging on the cutting board. "Jesus, Tim, you scared me," she exclaimed. "Sorry," I muttered, watching as she picked up the knife with trembling hands. "Everything okay?" she nodded, avoiding my gaze. "Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't it be?" I shrugged, grabbing a beer from the fridge. "No reason, just haven't seen much of you lately." Andrea's shoulders tensed. "I've been busy, you know how it goes," I remarked, taking a long gulp of my beer. "The gym, errands, the usual." She gave me a sharp look. "What's that supposed to mean?" I raised my hands in surrender. "Nothing, just making conversation." We ate dinner in silence, the tension palpable. As I was about to head upstairs for a shower, Andrea cleared her throat. "Tim," she said, her tone unusually gentle, "I need to tell you something." I turned, my heart pounding. This was it. Whatever had been going on, whatever secret she'd been hiding, it was all about to be revealed. "I'm pregnant." The words struck me like a blow. Pregnant, we were going to have a child. I should have been thrilled, overjoyed even, but all I felt was a cold, creeping dread. That's wonderful news," I managed to stammer, forcing a smile. Andrea's face brightened, and for a moment she resembled the woman I had fallen in love with years ago. "Really? You're happy?" I nodded, pulling her into an embrace to conceal the doubt in my eyes. "Of course we're going to be parents." As I held her, my mind raced. The timing, her recent behavior, the secrecy, it all pointed to something I didn't want to consider. But the seed of suspicion had been sown, and I knew it would only grow. That night, as Andrea slept calmly beside me, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, unable to dismiss the thought that our ideal life was on the brink of crumbling. The weeks after Andrea's pregnancy news passed in a whirl of doctor visits, nursery preparations, and forced smiles. I immersed myself in work, craving a diversion from the persistent suspicion gnawing at me day and night. During one of those late nights at the office, Haley approached me, her expression filled with worry. "Tim, we need to talk," she declared, shutting my office door. I looked up from my laptop, lifting an eyebrow. "What's going on?" Haley hesitated, playing with the hem of her jacket. "It's about what you mentioned earlier, about Andrea being distant." My stomach sank. "What about it?" She inhaled deeply, bracing herself for what she was about to disclose. "I've been there, Tim. My ex-husband, he cheated on me." "And the signs, they're all there with Andrea." I felt my face drain of color. "You don't know what you're talking about, don't I?" Haley challenged, her tone soft yet resolute. The secretive behavior, the constant errands, the emotional distance. Tim, I'm telling you as a friend. Something's not right. I stood up abruptly, the chair scraping the floor. Thanks for your concern, Haley, but my marriage is none of your business. She raised her hands in surrender. Okay, I just thought you should know. Be careful, Tim. As she left, her words echoed in my mind, amplifying the doubts I'd been struggling to ignore. That night, I couldn't bear it any longer. I confronted Andrea as soon as I arrived home. We need to talk, I stated, my tone harsher than I intended. Andrea looked up from her phone, her face defensive. What about us? About this, I gestured vaguely between us. What's going on? Andrea, she frowned, putting her phone down. I don't know what you're talking about, don't you? I snapped, my frustration erupting. The secrets, the late nights, the constant errands. Do you think I'm foolish? Andrea's eyes flashed with anger. Are you accusing me of something? Should I be? I countered, observing her closely. She stood up, her fists clenched. I can't believe this. I'm pregnant with your child, and you're accusing me of what? Cheating? I flinched at the word, but persisted. Are you? How dare you? Andrea shouted, tears starting in her eyes. After everything we've been through, you don't trust me? Feeling suddenly weary, I admitted. I want to, Andrea. God, I want to, but you've got to give me something here. She shook her head, angrily wiping her tears. I don't have to give you anything. If you don't trust me, that's your problem. Not mine with that. She stormed out of the room, leaving me alone with my doubts and fears. The months passed in a haze of tension and contrived normalcy. Andrea's belly grew, and with it, my suspicion. I tried to suppress it, to concentrate on the thrill of becoming a father, but the persistent doubt lingered. When our son was born, a beautiful, healthy baby boy, I experienced a wave of love like never before. But as I held him, examining his tiny features, a chilling realization dawned on me. He didn't resemble me, not in the slightest. At that moment, I knew what I had to do. The DNA test results arrived on a Tuesday in a plain white envelope that carried the potential to destroy my world. With trembling hands, I opened it, my eyes quickly scanning the clinical wording until I found the words that confirmed my deepest fears. The alleged father is not the biological father of the tested child. I felt numb, disconnected from my own body. As I confronted Andrea with the evidence, I questioned, what is this? Maintaining a disturbingly calm tone as I handed her the results. Andrea's complexion turned pale as she perused the document, her hands trembling. This can't be correct, can it? I probed, observing her closely. She raised her eyes to meet mine, panic evident. You must have tampered with this. There's no way. Stop lying, I bellowed, losing my composure at last. It's over, Andrea. The truth is out. Tears streamed down her face, but I felt no pity, only a chilling resentment. Tim, please, you have to believe me. I love you. I would never do this to you, she pleaded. I laughed bitterly, a harsh sound. Love me? You've been deceiving me for months, maybe years. How long has it been going on, Andrea? How long have you been making a fool of me? She reached out to me, but I stepped back, out of her reach. Tim, you're not thinking clearly. This test, it must be incorrect. We can have another done. Please don't end our marriage over this. I shook my head, feeling an odd sense of peace. Our marriage ended the moment you chose to betray me. I'm done. And Andrea, I'm going to sue you for paternity fraud, and I'll make sure everyone knows what you did. Andrea's expression twisted with fury. You'll regret this, Timothy. I swear to God, you'll regret this. As I walked out, leaving her crying on the floor, I felt a grim satisfaction. The truth was out, and it was time for justice. The law office of Linda Harris was a monument to achievement, with its sleek lines and modern art. I sat across from Linda, my hands tightly clasped in my lap, as I explained my situation. So let me get this straight, Linda said, her piercing blue eyes scrutinizing me over her glasses. You want to sue your wife for paternity fraud? I nodded, my jaw set. That's correct. I have the DNA test results right here. Linda took the paper, scanned it swiftly, then set it aside. Mr. Williamson, I won't sugarcoat this. Cases like these are emotionally and financially exhausting. Are you sure this is the path you want to take? I've never been more certain of anything in my life, I responded, my voice firm. She leaned back in her chair, eyeing me thoughtfully. All right, if you're sure, we can proceed, but be prepared for what's coming. This won't be easy. I met her gaze, resolute. I don't care. I want justice. Linda nodded, a slight smile playing at her lips. Then let's get started. The subsequent weeks were a whirlwind of legal documents and strategy meetings. I dedicated myself to building the case, gathering evidence of Andrea's infidelity with unwavering focus. When the court summons arrived at our house, Andrea's reaction was volatile. "You bastard," she yelled, bursting into my office, the summons in her hand. "How could you do this to us?" I looked up calmly from my computer. "I'm not the one who ruined us, Andrea. You did that all by yourself." Her face twisted in anger. "You'll pay for this, Timothy. I swear to God, I'll make you regret the day you ever met me." I stood, my tone low and menacing. "Is that a threat?" She recoiled, fear flickering in her eyes momentarily before it was replaced by defiance. "It's a promise with that." She stormed out. I heard the front door slam, followed by the screech of tires as she drove away rapidly. Later that evening, I received a text from an unknown number. "She's staying with me. Don't try to contact her." Jay, her personal trainer. The pieces were falling into place, and the image they formed was infuriating. The next day, I met with Linda to plan our next steps. "We need to be strategic about this," Linda advised, spreading documents on her desk. "Andrea is going to fight back hard. We need to be ready for anything." I nodded, my mind teeming with possibilities. "What do you suggest?" Linda's eyes gleamed with a predatory intensity. "We gather every piece of evidence we can: text messages, witness statements, anything that proves her infidelity. We build a case so solid she won't be able to escape it." As we reviewed the details, a plan began to take shape in my mind, a plan that went beyond merely winning the court case, a plan for true justice. That night, as I sat alone in the house that once brimmed with joyful memories, I made a decision. This wouldn't just be about winning a lawsuit, it would be about making Andrea pay for every deception, every betrayal. I picked up my phone and dialed a number I hadn't used in years. "Hello," a gruff voice answered. "Dr. Matthews, it's Timothy Williamson. I think I need to start therapy again." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "I see. And what brings you back?" "Timothy," I took a deep breath, steeling myself. "I need to work through some issues, and I need help planning something." "Planning what exactly?" A cold smile spread across my face. "Let's just say a reckoning." As I hung up the phone, I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. The storm was coming, and I was going to be the one controlling it. The rhythmic ticking of the clock on my office wall was the only sound as I sat hunched over my desk, scribbling furiously in a notebook. My therapist, Dr. Matthews, had suggested journaling as a way to process my emotions, but I had other plans for these pages. I was mapping out Andrea's routine, noting every detail I could remember: the gym at 6 a.m. with Jason, lunch with her friends at that pretentious cafe downtown, her weekly book club meetings that always seemed to run late into the night. A knock at my door startled me from my thoughts. "Come in," I called, quickly flipping the notebook shut. Haley poked her head in, a concerned frown on her face. "Hey Tim, got a minute?" I nodded, gesturing to the chair across from me. "What's up?" She settled into the seat, her eyes darting nervously around the room before settling on me. "I heard about, well, everything. How are you holding up?" I leaned back in my chair, studying her. "I'm fine." "Why do you ask?" Haley fidgeted with the hem of her blouse. "It's just I've been there, remember. I know how hard this can be. If you need someone to talk to, or anything else." The implication in her words was clear. I raised an eyebrow. "Are you offering to testify against Andrea?" Her eyes widened slightly, but she nodded. "If it would help." "Yes, I've seen how she acts around the office during company events, the way she flirts with, well, everyone." A slow smile spread across my face. "Haley, I think you might be exactly what I need." Over the next hour, we hashed out a plan. Haley would reach out to some of our other co-workers, subtly gathering information about Andrea's behavior at company functions. Meanwhile, I had my own mission to carry out. That evening, I met with Linda at a small, out-of-the-way bar, the kind of place where people minded their own business. "You're sure about this?" Linda asked, her voice low as she slid a small device across the table to me. I picked up the voice recorder, turning it over in my hands. "Absolutely. We need hard evidence." "Right," Linda nodded, though her expression remained troubled. "Just be careful, Timothy. If you're caught, I won't be." I cut her off, pocketing the device. "Trust me, I know what I'm doing." As I left the bar, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Meet me at the park, 30 minutes. Jay, my heart raced as I drove to the designated meeting spot. I found Jason waiting on a bench, his muscular frame tense as he watched me approach. "What do you want?" I asked, keeping my distance. Jason stood, towering over me. "To warn you, back off, man. You have no idea what you're getting into," I laughed, the sound harsh in the quiet night. "Is that a threat, Jason?" Because I don't respond well to threats, he took a step closer, his voice dropping to a menacing growl. "It's not a threat. It's a promise. You push this, and you'll regret it." I met his gaze, unflinching. "No, Jason, you and Andrea are the ones who are going to regret this every single day." As I walked away, I could feel his eyes boring into my back, but I didn't care. The trap was set, and soon, very soon, it would snap shut. The house was silent as I crept through the darkness, my heart pounding in my chest. Andrea was out, probably with Jason, giving me the perfect opportunity to set my plan in motion. I navigated my way to her closet, meticulously rearranging her clothes and slightly shifting her favorite dress out of its usual place. In her jewelry box, I swapped the positions of her earrings, minor changes, barely noticeable but enough to sow seeds of doubt in her mind. As I worked, my thoughts drifted back to brighter days, the day I proposed in this very room, the sparkle in her eyes when she accepted, and how quickly it all deteriorated. Suddenly, a noise from downstairs snapped me back to the present footsteps. Andrea was home early. I froze, listening as the footsteps approached. The bedroom door creaked open. Tim, Andrea's voice called out, uncertain. "Are you here?" I stepped out of the closet, adopting a neutral expression. "Just grabbing some of my things," I explained. Andrea jumped, her hand clutching her chest. "Jesus, you scared me. What are you doing here?" I lifted a duffel bag I'd hastily filled with random clothes. "Like I said, getting my stuff. Don't worry, I'll be out of your hair soon." Her eyes narrowed, scanning the room as if she sensed something amiss. "You shouldn't be here," she stated, referring to our legal advice. "I know what the lawyers said," I interrupted her, brushing past towards the door. "I'm leaving now. Enjoy your evening with Jason." I glimpsed her shocked expression as I descended the stairs, a wave of satisfaction washing over me. The game had begun. Over the following weeks, I intensified my campaign of subtle psychological warfare. Anonymous tips to Andrea's friends about her alleged infidelity, mysterious hang-up calls to our home phone, each move meticulously calculated to escalate her paranoia and provoke a slip-up. During a meeting with Linda, I finally received the news I had been waiting for. "We've got her," Linda announced, a triumphant gleam in her eye, spreading a series of documents on her desk. Financial records revealing substantial withdrawals around the time she began seeing Jason, text messages nearly confirming the affair, and the coup de grace, a witness ready to testify they saw Andrea and Jason together well before her pregnancy. I leaned back in my chair, a cold smile crossing my face. "Excellent work, Linda. When can we move forward?" She returned my smile. "I've already filed the paperwork. The court date is set for next month." "Are you ready for this, Timothy?" I nodded, my resolve firmer than ever. I've never been more prepared for anything in my life. As I left Linda's office, my phone vibrated with a text from Haley. "Need to talk. Meet me at the usual spot." 20 minutes later, I found Haley waiting at our regular coffee shop, her face pale and troubled. "What's wrong?" I inquired as I slid into the seat across from her. Haley glanced around nervously before leaning in. "Tim, I think Andrea knows we're gathering evidence against her. She cornered me in the break room today, asking all sorts of questions about you and me." A flash of anger crossed my mind, swiftly replaced by determination. "What did you tell her?" "Nothing," Haley insisted, her eyes wide. "I played dumb, said we were just work friends. But Tim," she seemed desperate, almost unhinged. "I'm worried about what she might do." I reached across the table, squeezing Haley's hand reassuringly. "Don't worry, we're close to the end now. Just stick to the plan and everything will work out. Trust me." As I drove home that night, my mind raced with possibilities. Andrea was getting desperate, which meant she was bound to make mistakes. All I had to do was wait and watch. The courthouse loomed before me, its imposing facade a fitting backdrop for the battle that was about to unfold. I adjusted my tie, took a deep breath, and stepped through the heavy wooden doors. Inside, the air was dense with tension. I spotted Andrea and Jason huddled in a corner with their lawyer, their hushed whispers carrying an edge of panic. "Good, let them squirm. Ready for this?" Linda asked, Appearing at my side with a stack of files tucked under her arm, I nodded, my jaws set with determination. More than ready. Let's end this. As we filed into the courtroom, I caught Andrea's eye for a moment. I saw a flicker of the woman I had once loved, scared, vulnerable, but then her mask of defiance slipped back into place, and I remembered why we were here. The judge, a stern-faced woman with steely grey hair, called the court to order. We are here today in the case of Williamson versus Williamson, a suit for paternity fraud. Are both parties ready to proceed? Yes, Your Honor. Linda and Andrea's lawyer responded in unison. What followed was a brutal dissection of our marriage, our lives laid bare for all to see. Linda was relentless, presenting evidence after damning evidence. Your Honor, Linda said, her voice ringing clear through the courtroom, I'd like to present Exhibit A DNA test conclusively proving that my client is not the father of the child in question. Andrea's lawyer jumped to his feet. Objection, Your Honor. This test was conducted without my client's knowledge or consent. The judge peered over her glasses at him. Was the test conducted by a reputable lab? Linda nodded. Yes, Your Honor, we have the lab's credentials on file. Then I'll allow it, the judge ruled. Objection overruled. I watched as the color drained from Andrea's face. This was just the beginning. Next came the financial records, the text messages, the witness testimonies. With each new piece of evidence, I could see Andrea's resolve crumbling. Finally, it was time for cross-examination. Andrea took the stand, her hands shaking as she swore to tell the truth. Mrs. Williamson, Linda began, her tone deceptively gentle. Can you explain the large withdrawals from your joint account around the time your affair with Mr. Miller began? Andrea's eyes darted to her lawyer, panic clear on her face. I don't remember making those withdrawals. Linda's smile was predatory. Really? Because we have bank footage showing you at the ATM on those exact dates and times. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. I caught Jason shifting uncomfortably in his seat, his face a mask of worry. No further questions, Your Honor, Linda said, returning to her seat with a satisfied smile. The rest of the trial passed in a blur. Closing arguments were made, final pieces of evidence submitted, and then finally it was time for the verdict. The judge cleared her throat, her eyes scanning the courtroom before settling on me. In the case of Williamson versus Williamson, this court finds in favor of the plaintiff, Mr. Timothy Williamson. Mrs. Williamson is hereby ordered to pay damages in the amount of. I tuned out the specifics, my eyes locked on Andrea. She had collapsed into her seat, sobs racking her body as the full weight of her actions came crashing down on her. As we left the courtroom, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Triumph, yes, but also a hollow ache where my love for Andrea used to be. Congratulations, Linda said, shaking my hand firmly. Justice has been served. I nodded, watching as Andrea was led away by her lawyer. Yes, it has. But this isn't over yet. Linda raised an eyebrow. Oh? What did you have in mind? I smiled, a plan already forming in my mind. Let's just say the court of public opinion can be even harsher than a legal one. As I walked out of the courthouse, my phone buzzed with a text from Haley. Heard the news. Drinks to celebrate. I typed out a quick reply, rain check. I've got one last piece of business to take care of. The real work, I realized, was just beginning. Andrea had lost the battle, but I was about to make sure she lost the war. The morning after the court verdict, I sat at my kitchen table, a cup of coffee growing cold beside me as I stared at my laptop screen. My finger hovered over the send button, a familiar rush of adrenaline surging through my veins. Time to face the music, Andrea, I muttered, clicking the button with a sense of satisfaction. Within minutes, my phone started buzzing incessantly, texts, calls, emails, all reacting to the bombshell I just dropped. The court documents, carefully redacted to protect certain identities, were now public knowledge. Andrea's infidelity, her lies, the paternity fraud, all of it exposed for the world to see. A call from Haley came through, and I answered, my voice steady despite the turmoil of emotions within me. Tim, what have you done? Haley's voice was a mix of awe and concern. What needed to be done, I replied, my tone leaving no room for argument. How's the office reacting? Haley let out a low whistle. It's chaos, everyone's talking about it. Andrea's reputation is in tatters. Good, I said, a cold smile spreading across my face. That's exactly what I wanted. Tim. Hayley hesitated, her voice dropping to a whisper. There's no coming back from this, I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. Coming back, Hayley? I don't want to come back. I want Andrea to feel every bit of pain and humiliation she put me through. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Okay, Tim, just be careful. All right. I ended the call, my resolve stronger than ever. This was just the beginning. Over the next few days, I watched from afar as Andrea's life crumbled around her. Her social media accounts went dark after a barrage of angry comments. Friends she'd known for years now crossed the street to avoid her. The gym where she'd met Jason publicly revoked her membership. It was during this time that I received an unexpected visitor. The doorbell rang one evening, and I opened it to find Jason standing on my porch, looking decidedly worse for wear. What do you want? I asked, my voice cold. His eyes darted nervously. Look, man, I need to talk to you. I considered slamming the door in his face, but curiosity got the better of me. Talk. I'm done with Andrea, Jason blurted out, the words tumbling from his mouth. This whole thing, it's too much. I can't deal with it anymore. I leaned against the doorframe, studying him. And you're telling me this because Jason swallowed hard. I thought, I don't know, man. I thought you should know. She's been calling me non-stop, showing up at my place. She's losing it. A surge of satisfaction coursed through me. That sounds like a you problem, Jason. Or should I say, was a you problem since you're done with her? And all, yeah, Jason nodded, looking relieved. Yeah, I am. I wanted to apologize, I guess, for everything. I stared at him for a long moment, letting him squirm under my gaze. Apology not accepted. Now get off my property before I call the cops. As I shut the door on Jason's stunned face, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Andrea was truly alone now, isolated and desperate, just as I had been when I discovered her betrayal. The next morning I received a flurry of texts from Andrea. Tim, please, we need to talk. I'm sorry for everything. Can we meet? I've lost everything. You've won. What more do you want? I read each message with detached interest, feeling nothing but cold satisfaction. I typed out a single reply. I want nothing from you, Andrea. Not anymore. As I blocked her number, I realized that this chapter of my life was finally coming to a close. Andrea's downfall was complete, and I was ready to move on. The office was abuzz with whispers as I walked in, heads turning to watch my progress towards my desk. I ignored them all, focusing on the tasks ahead. The scandal had died down somewhat, but its effects still lingered in the air like a heavy perfume. Hayley approached my desk, a tentative smile on her face. Hey, Tim, how are you holding up? I looked up from my computer, offering her a small nod. I'm fine, Hayley, just focusing on work. She perched on the edge of my desk, lowering her voice. Listen, a bunch of us are going out for drinks after work to celebrate your victory, I guess. Want to join? I considered for a moment, then shook my head. Thanks, but I've got an appointment. Hayley's eyebrows shot up. An appointment with who? My therapist, I replied, surprising myself with my honesty. I've been seeing him regularly since everything unfolded. Hayley's expression softened. That's great, Tim. Really, I'm glad you're taking care of yourself. As she walked away, I felt a twinge of something I hadn't experienced in a long time. Hope. Later that evening, I sat across from Dr. Matthews in the familiar surroundings of his office, finding a sense of comfort I hadn't realized I needed. So, Timothy, Dr. Matthews began, his pen poised over his notepad. How are you feeling now that the dust has settled? I took a deep breath, considering the question honestly. I'm not sure. Part of me feels vindicated, but another part I trailed off, prompting Dr. Matthews to encourage, go on. Another part of me feels empty, I admitted. Like I've been so focused on getting revenge that I forgot to think about what comes next. Dr. Matthews nodded, jotting something down. That's not uncommon in these situations. You've achieved your goal. Now you need to find a new one. But what? I asked, frustration creeping into my voice. My whole life for the past year has been about this. Perhaps, Dr. Matthews suggested gently, it's time to focus on rebuilding not just your life but your ability to trust, to connect with others. I snorted, shaking my head. Trust. After what Andrea did, yes, trust, Dr. Matthews insisted. Not everyone is Andrea, Timothy. There are good people out there, people who won't betray you. But you need to be open to the possibility. As I left the session, Dr. Matthews' words echoed in my mind. Could I really trust again? Did I even want to? The answer came sooner than I expected. As I walked through the park near my house, lost in thought, I quite literally ran into someone. "Oh, I'm so sorry," a female voice exclaimed as books scattered across the path. I knelt to help gather the fallen items, looking up to find myself face to face with a woman about my age, her green eyes wide with embarrassment. "No, it was my fault," I said, handing her the last book. "I wasn't watching where I was going." She smiled, tucking a strand of auburn hair behind her ear. "Well, let's call it a draw then." "I'm Rachel, by the way." "Rachel Bennett Timothy," I replied, surprised to find myself smiling back. "Timothy Williamson." Rachel's eyes widened slightly. "Timothy Williamson." The one from the news. I felt my smile falter, preparing for the usual barrage of questions or judgment, but Rachel surprised me. "I'm so sorry for what you went through," she said softly. "That must have been incredibly difficult." Something in her tone, the genuine empathy in her eyes, made me pause. It was, I admitted. "But I'm working through it." Rachel nodded, her smile returning. "That's good to hear. Say, I was just heading to grab a coffee. Would you like to join me? Unless you're busy, of course." I hesitated for a moment, Dr. Matthew's words about trust ringing in my ears. Then, to my own surprise, I nodded. "You know what? I'd like that." As we walked towards the nearby cafe, chatting easily about books and the unseasonably warm weather, I felt something I hadn't experienced in a long time, a sense of possibility. Maybe, just maybe, this could be the start of something new. Months passed, and life settled into a new rhythm. Work became more than just a distraction. I threw myself into new projects with renewed vigor, earning a promotion that took me by surprise. "Congratulations, Tim," Haley exclaimed, popping her head into my new office. "Senior manager, huh? Looks good on you," I smiled, still getting used to the larger space. "Thanks, Haley. It feels right." Somehow she leaned against the door frame, a knowing look in her eye. "And how's things with Rachel?" Still going strong, the mention of Rachel's name brought an involuntary smile to my face. "Yeah, we're good, really good actually. I'm happy for you," Tim, Haley said sincerely. "After everything you've been through, you deserve this." As Haley left, I found myself reflecting on the journey that had brought me to this point. The pain, the anger, the thirst for revenge, it all seemed so distant now. That evening, as Rachel and I strolled through the park where we'd first met, I felt a sense of peace I thought was lost forever. "Penny for your thoughts," Rachel asked, squeezing my hand gently. I looked at her, taking in her warm smile and kind eyes. I was just thinking about how far I've come, how different things are now. Rachel nodded, her expression understanding. "You've been through so much, Tim, but you've come out stronger for it." We stopped at a bench, sitting down to watch the sunset, you know? I said slowly, "I never thought I'd be able to trust anyone again after what happened with Andrea, but with you, it's different." Rachel turned to face me, her eyes serious. "Tim, I want you to know that I would never ever do anything to hurt you like that. You can trust me." I believed her. For the first time in what felt like forever, I truly believed someone when they said those words. As we sat there, talking about our hopes and dreams for the future, I felt the last vestiges of bitterness and anger slip away. I was ready to move forward, to embrace this new chapter of my life. The next day I received an unexpected email. It was from Andrea. My finger hovered over the delete button, but curiosity got the better of me. I opened it, bracing myself for whatever lay inside. "Tim, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, and I don't blame you. What I did was unforgivable. I've lost everything, my friends, my job, my dignity, but worst of all, I lost you. I'm not writing to ask for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve that. I just wanted you to know that I understand now the pain I caused you. I'm truly deeply sorry. I'm leaving town, starting over somewhere new. I hope you find happiness, Tim. You deserve it. Andrea." I read the email twice, searching for any hint of manipulation or deceit, but for once, Andrea seemed genuinely remorseful. After a moment's hesitation, I typed out a brief reply. "Andrea, thank you for your apology. I hope you find peace in your new life, Tim." As I hit send, I felt the last piece of my old life fall away. It was time to focus on the future. That evening, as Rachel and I prepared dinner in my kitchen, I found myself opening up about the email. "How do you feel about it?" Rachel asked, her tone free of judgment. I considered the question as I chopped vegetables. "Honestly, I feel free, like the last bit of weight has been lifted off my shoulders." Rachel smiled, leaning in to kiss my cheek. "I'm proud of you, Tim. It takes strength to move on like that." As we sat down to eat, Our conversation drifted to lighter topics. I realized something profound. The man I was now stronger, wiser, more compassionate was shaped by the trials I'd endured. The betrayal, the pain, the quest for justice, it had all led me here, to this moment of contentment. I looked at Rachel, laughing at something I'd said, and felt a surge of gratitude for her, for this second chance at happiness, for the journey that had brought me to this point. The future stretched out before me, full of possibility, and for the first time in a long time, I was excited to see where it would lead. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks for your precious time. If you enjoyed this story, then please make sure you subscribe to this channel. That would help me a lot. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.